Hey friends, my name's Gabrielle, and today's What to Read Wednesday is what to read if you like fantasy. Okay, so I used to be a huge fantasy fan, and I read so many fantasy books, and then for some reason, I kind of just forgot that that genre existed. So I have gotten back into fantasy recently, and I have found some pretty amazing books. If you guys love fantasy and are looking for new books to read, or if you guys haven't really given fantasy a try yet, but are willing to kind of jump in there, then here are some recommendations that I have for you guys. The first book, and actually this is one I've kind of gushed about a lot on my channel, so many people probably know what it is. It is Here There Be Dragons by James A. Owen. It starts off in World War I London. It follows these three strangers, John, Jack, and Charles, as they are kind of thrown into this magical world and are chosen to protect this atlas of all the fantastical places in the universe. They realize that there's a war upcoming with this mad person called the Winter King, and they have to protect the Imaginarium Geographica and stop him from wiping out all the other worlds. This book is fantastic. There are dragons, there are magic, there are so many Easter eggs that as someone who just loves reading and books and fantastical lands in general, when you see them, you get so excited on the inside. I especially love it because the author, he also made all the drawings. So the cover he designed himself, and then all of the amazing drawings that you see at the beginning of every chapter, such as this one right here, he did them himself. And so I think that's really amazing, and I love the writing style, I love the art, and this is the first book I recommend to anyone who is trying to branch out into fantasy or is looking for more amazing fantasy to read. The second book is for those of us who like fantasy but maybe don't want to get invested in an entirely new world. Monster, a novel by A. Lee Martinez. It is a cryptological containment and rescue services book. Basically, there are two humans called, one is Monster and one is Judy. Monster runs a pest containment agency, but the pests that he's hunting for are actually like magical creatures. So what the premise of this book is that humans and magical creatures live coexistently on Earth. But for some reason, like, most humans can't see the magical creatures for what they are. There is actually some sort of magical wavelength that makes it so that only a few humans can actually see other magical creatures. People like Monster, who are human but also can see these magical creatures, kind of have a foot in both worlds. While people like Judy, sometimes they just have random occurrences and experiences with this magical world and they don't realize it, and they constantly forget about it until someone reminds them. So it's just such an interesting book. It's so different from any other kind of fantasy novel. This book is just funny. It's sarcastic. It's got such dry humor that anyone who is maybe not a huge fan of the typical fantasy tropes, they will really enjoy this novel because it basically takes all those tropes and turns them on its head, and it does it in such an amazing way that I highly recommend this book to anyone. The third book I'm recommending definitely falls heavily into the world-building fantasy, traditional fantasy, and that is The Knight's Edge, Book 1 of the Ronin Saga, written by Matthew Wolfe. This book is one that I have grown to love, especially because I was forced to restart it so many times because I read it in the aftermath of my book a day challenge, where I was really kind of just like taking a break from reading. So once I actually sat down and found the time to read this book, I really enjoyed it. It heavily builds off of a lot of fantasy tropes, so if you enjoy the Wheel of Time series, or if you enjoy Lord of the Rings, then this is definitely a book for you. This next book I'm talking about is more of my type of fantasy when it comes to world building and magic. This book is called The Magic of Blood and Sea, and it's written by Cassandra Rose Clark. Most of it is based on pirates and assassins, which are my favorite things when it comes to fantasy books. The main character is a girl named Anana of the Tanaroo, and she is basically a pirate princess, so to speak, but not so much the princess part as we typically picture princesses. And she abandoned ship when her parents tried to marry her to a pirate clan in order to kind of form an allegiance. When she does, she flees, and an assassin from the pirate clan she was supposed to marry is sent after her. As the assassin is trying to kill her, she actually finds out that they are tied together by an ancient curse, and it's up to them to not only survive the other pirates' clans' attempts at killing them and still marrying Anana, but also save the assassin from the curse, as well as the enemies that the assassin Naji has from the shadowy underworld that he lives in. It's more of a dark fantasy book, so it's a lot grittier than you see in traditional fantasy. And finally, I can't mention fantasy without mentioning this book because it is my favorite book that I've ever read. Like, this is my #1 will read all the time if I need to book. And that is The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. And if you guys have not heard me rant about this series, then oh my god, where have you been? Because it's amazing. I will rant on it all day if I could, but I'm just going to stop right here and say if you have not yet read this book, if you have not yet read The Golden Compass, then you absolutely need to. But yeah, okay, so that is all I have for you guys today. Those are the top 5 books that you must read if you are trying to get into fantasy or if you just want some new fantasy recommendations. If you guys have read any of the books that I mentioned, then let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are. If you guys do want to read any of these books and you also want to try Audible for 30 days free, then I have an Audible code you can use, and that will also be in the links down below. You can get a free 30-day Audible trial. But that's all I have for you guys today. I would love to know what you guys thought of this video in the comments down below. If you have not subscribed to my channel, then you definitely should, because I upload bookish videos twice a week, as well as reaction videos whenever something cool comes out that I want to react to. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will talk to you guys later. Okay, bye.